The night I witnessed a Korean crime lord execute his own brother in the penthouse I was paid to clean, I thought my biggest problem was disposing of the bloody mop water without getting fired. I was wrong. Because when Kang Jae-sung turned around and saw me crouched behind the marble kitchen island with industrial bleach in my hands and terror in my eyes, the first thing he said wasn't "You didn't see anything," it was "How long have you been watching me?" In a voice that held equal parts curiosity and deadly calculation. What I didn't know was that my answer would determine whether I walked out of that penthouse alive or became another problem that needed permanent solving. What I definitely didn't know was that trying to stay invisible as a black night cleaner in Seoul's most exclusive building tends to backfire spectacularly when the man you're hiding from has spent 15 years learning to notice everything, especially the one person who's been quietly witnessing his empire from the shadows. My name is Aaliyah Washington, and I've been cleaning Kim Tower's top 3 floors for 8 months, long enough to perfect the art of being completely invisible to the wealthy and dangerous people who conducted business there after midnight. The job paid more than anything I could find teaching English in Seoul, which is how a girl from Baltimore with a master's degree in literature ended up scrubbing marble floors for people who spoke in code and paid in cash. The rules were simple: come in at 11 p.m. when the office is emptied, finish by 6 a.m. before anyone returned, and most importantly, pretend you don't exist. I'd gotten good at it. Moving like a ghost through spaces that reeked of expensive cologne and barely concealed violence, cleaning around meetings I wasn't supposed to witness, erasing evidence of conversations that could topple governments or destroy lives. Tonight felt different. The usual security guards were gone, replaced by men in black suits who moved with military precision. The elevator had been locked down, accessible only with a special key card that the head of maintenance had given me with unusual nervousness. "Just the penthouse tonight," he'd said in broken English. "Clean fast. Leave before sunrise." The penthouse belonged to Kang Jae-sung, though officially it was registered to a shell company buried under 6 layers of corporate obfuscation. I'd been cleaning his space for months, learning his habits without ever meeting him face to face. He was methodical, controlled. Never left personal items lying around. His desk was always cleared, his files locked away, his living space pristine except for the faint scent of gunpowder that no amount of industrial cleaning could completely eliminate. Tonight, that scent was fresh. I was in the kitchen, replacing the water in my mop bucket, when I heard voices from the main living area. Angry voices speaking rapid Korean, the kind of conversation that made my survival instincts scream warnings. I should have left. Should have abandoned my supplies and taken the service elevator down 43 floors to street level, collected my pay, and found a new job cleaning office buildings that didn't require security clearances. Instead, curiosity killed my common sense. I crept to the kitchen doorway, staying low behind the marble island, and peered into the living room where 2 men faced each other like gladiators preparing for combat. Kang Jae-sung was everything the rumors suggested, 36 years old, built like violence and wealth had carved him from expensive marble. Even in casual clothes, dark jeans and a black sweater, he radiated the kind of controlled danger that made smart people cross streets and stupid people follow him blindly. The other man looked similar enough to be family. Same sharp cheekbones, same intelligent dark eyes, but where Jae-sung held himself with predatory stillness, this man vibrated with desperate energy. "You betrayed everything father built," the man was saying in English, probably for the benefit of security cameras that might be monitored by people who didn't speak Korean. "Everything we swore to protect." "I protected it by evolving it," Jae-sung replied, his voice carrying the kind of calm that preceded explosions. "You wanted to stay locked in the past while our enemies modernized around us. By dealing with federal agents? By selling information to the highest bidder? By staying alive when honor would have gotten us all killed." I pressed myself against the kitchen island, heart hammering as the conversation grew more heated. These weren't business disagreements, This was family destroying itself from the inside. The evidence is already with the Seoul prosecutors, the other man continued. Financial records, weapon shipments, names and dates of every operation you've run for the past 3 years. They have enough to dismantle everything. Something shifted in Jae-sung's posture. The predatory stillness became absolute focus, the kind that preceded violence. Who else knows about this, Kang Min-ho? Does it matter? It's over, brother. Turn yourself in, cooperate with authorities, and maybe you can negotiate minimal sentences for the people who trusted you. The people who trusted me don't negotiate with authorities. They eliminate problems. The gunshot was so sudden, so loud in the enclosed space, that I jumped and knocked over my mop bucket. Industrial-strength cleaning solution spread across the kitchen floor, the sound of liquid on marble echoing through the penthouse like a dinner bell ringing for death. When I looked back into the living room, Min-ho was on the ground, blood spreading beneath him in patterns I recognized from too many crime scene photos in forensics classes I'd taken years ago. Jae-sung stood over his brother's body, gun still in his hand, expression empty of everything except cold calculation. That's when he turned and looked directly at me. "How long have you been watching me?" he asked. Every survival instinct I possessed screamed conflicting advice. Run. Hide. Confess. Lie. Beg. Fight. Instead, I heard myself saying the truth with a calmness that surprised us both. Long enough to know you didn't want to kill him. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe recognition of an uncomfortable truth. And what makes you think that? I stood up slowly, hands visible, making no sudden movements that might trigger more violence. You've been having these arguments for weeks. I hear pieces when I'm cleaning. He was your brother, and you've been trying to save him from whatever mistake he made. Tonight was the first time he couldn't be saved. Jae-sung studied me with the intensity of someone used to reading lies and finding truth. Most people would be running right now. Or begging for their lives. Running gets you shot in the back. Begging doesn't work on people who've already decided what they're going to do. I gestured to the cleaning supplies scattered around my feet. Besides, I'm very good at cleaning up messes. For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then, incredibly, he laughed. A sound that held no humor but acknowledged the strange logic of our situation. Aaliyah Washington. 28 years old. Master's degree in English literature from Johns Hopkins. Teaching certification from Seoul National University. No criminal record, no family in Korea, no ties to any organization that might use you as leverage. The fact that he knew my full background sent ice through my veins even as part of me was impressed by his thoroughness. You've been investigating your cleaning lady? I investigate everyone who has access to my private spaces. The question is what I do with that information now that circumstances have changed. What are my options? Usually, there's only one option for witnesses to family business. And unusually? Unusually, I find myself in need of someone who understands the value of being invisible and the skill of cleaning up messes. I looked at the body bleeding on his pristine carpet, then back at him. What kind of messes are we talking about? The kind that disappear completely. Bodies, evidence, problems that threaten everything I've built. His voice dropped lower, more intimate and infinitely more dangerous. The kind that require absolute trust and permanent silence. And if I'm not interested in that career change? Then we proceed with the usual option for witnesses. The choice was binary, become complicit in his world or join his brother on the floor. But as I looked at Jae-sung, I saw something that gave me hope for a third possibility. There's another option, I said. Which is? You let me finish cleaning this penthouse. I do the job I was hired to do. And tomorrow night, I come back and we discuss what kind of permanent arrangement might work for both of us. Why would I let you leave with this information? Because you've been watching me for 8 months just like I've been watching you. You know I'm careful, quiet, and very good at keeping secrets. You know I need this job and I'm not stupid enough to threaten my only source of income by running to authorities who wouldn't believe me anyway. I moved closer, stepping over the spilled cleaning solution, my sneakers squelching on the marble. And because something tells me you're tired of cleaning up messes alone. The silence stretched between us, heavy with calculation and possibility. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seoul glittered with a million lights, each one representing someone who went to bed unaware that their world had shifted tonight. Finally, Jae-sung holstered his gun. 4 hours, he said. Everything clean, no trace left behind. Can you do that? I've been doing that for months. The only difference is now I know why it matters. As I began assembling my cleaning supplies, he made calls in rapid Korean, summoning people who specialized in making problems disappear. I worked around them as they arrived, men with the kind of efficiency that suggested this wasn't their first body removal, women with forensics training who checked for evidence with professional thoroughness. I cleaned while they worked, removing every trace of blood, every fingerprint, every hint that violence had occurred in this pristine space. It was strangely collaborative, like a dance choreographed by necessity and performed by people who understood that perfection was the only acceptable outcome. You're good at this, one of the forensics specialists said as I finished scrubbing the carpet where Minho had fallen. I've had practice. Not this kind of practice. No. But mess is mess. Blood comes out with cold water and enzyme cleaners. Fear comes out with careful breathing and steady hands. When it was over, the penthouse looked exactly as it had when I'd arrived, pristine, expensive, empty of everything except the faint scent of cleaning chemicals and the weight of secrets. Jae-sung appeared beside me as I packed my supplies, moving with the kind of silent grace that explained how he'd built an empire without anyone noticing. Tomorrow night, he said. Same time. We discussed terms. What kind of terms? The kind that make you wealthy enough to pay off your student loans, powerful enough that no one can threaten you, and valuable enough that I'll burn Seoul down before I let anything happen to you. I shouldered my supply bag, meeting his eyes with steady determination. And what would you get out of this arrangement? Someone who sees everything and understands the value of saying nothing. Someone who can move through spaces without being noticed, who can clean problems that need delicate handling. His voice dropped to something almost intimate. Someone who looked at me after I killed my own brother and saw a man who didn't want to pull that trigger. You didn't. No. But I did it anyway. That's the difference between surviving and living in my world. As I waited for the elevator, I realized that tomorrow night would determine which side of that difference I ended up on. Whether I remained invisible by choice or became invisible permanently. But for the first time in months, I felt like someone had really seen me. Even if that someone was Seoul's most dangerous crime lord, even if being seen by him might be the most dangerous thing that had ever happened to me. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. As the doors closed between us, I saw Jae-sung watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read, calculation mixed with something that might have been hope. I had 18 hours to decide whether to show up tomorrow night or disappear from Seoul entirely. 18 hours to decide whether staying invisible was worth remaining powerless, or if being seen by the right dangerous person might be the most invisible position of all. Because in Kang Jae-sung's world, the people no one dared to touch were often the safest people in the city. The question was whether I was brave enough to stop hiding and start wielding the kind of power that came from being indispensable to a man who controlled Seoul's shadows.